Hello, everyone, and welcome to what is the second episode in a series of R tutorials for sports analytics. These are made for general use if you want to learn R specifically in the sports analytics realm, with the GitHub for the corresponding scripts in the description. These are made as an analog to the in-person workshops for Cornell Sports Analytics and BRSN Analytics. And if you haven't seen the first tutorial yet, you should check it out on the Cornell Sports Analytics YouTube channel. But if you have, welcome back, and we're going to start our second tutorial in R, which is tabling and data visualization or plotting. So we're going to use some of the knowledge that we learned last time. We're going to load in a few libraries because we're just loading in R again. So we're going to load in tidyverse. We're going to load in the library NFL read R. We're going to load in the library ggimage. We are going to load in GT, and we'll need all of these. And then we're going to load in the library GT extras. So those are the libraries. We can highlight them all. We can click Command Enter, and we can run all of the libraries. And you see they load in at the bottom. Tidyverse attaches all these. This does this. So we are going to create a variable or an object or data frame based on the CSV that we had saved at the end of last video. So we are going to do PBP point differential comb. Sorry, I spelled it wrong. Point differential comb. Read.csv. So we're reading the CSV. And what CSV are we reading? We're reading point underscore differential dot CSV. And remember how we saved the CSV in the same folder that we did that we created last time, and we saved the other script in, right? So we see it right here, pbp point diff com.csv. Or sorry, that's actually the one for today. We see it here with point underscore differential CSV. So we're actually going to be saving this CSV at the end of this tutorial to use for the next tutorial. But right now we just have point differential.csv. So when we load that in, PBP point differential comb is going to be just this point differential CSV that we created at the end of last episode. And before we do anything else, we want to save this R script. So I'm just going to save it as learning R tutorial 2. And if you can't see, I just basically just saved it as learning R tutorial 2. And when you refresh, boom, it pops up right there. So first off, we are going to learn how to create a bar chart. So we're going to plot points 4 in a bar chart. If you don't know what a bar chart is, you'll see in a second. So first off, we are going to use the load teams. First, we're going to make this teams colors logos data frame, right? We're going to go load teams, and that's it, and the parentheses. So when we do that, it accesses NFL readr, and it makes this. So we have team abbreviation, team name, team ID, all these things about the team, including their logo, their on Wikipedia, their logo on ESPN, their team word mark, conference logo, league logo, things of the sort. And we can use the view function. So let's just use the view function, right? Oh, here, it's teams, colors, logos. So that just opens it as well. So that's really another way to open a data frame if you don't want to search it in your global environment. So we are going to edit this team's colors logos to just get the logo. So I'm going to call it team's colors logos logo. And we're going to take team's colors logo. We're going to pipe operate it and use the select function. We're going to use team abbreviation, which these are all here. We take team logo ESPN, team word mark, team color, and team color 2. We're going to take all these, we're going to run it, and we're going to find team colors, logos, logo. It'll have all the things all the columns we have just selected. So we are going to edit pvp point diff com. We're actually just going to take this pvp point diff com, and it'll end up being the same data frame. So if you actually do this and you want to run this code again, change up some code and run it again, you do have to run this line again. So that's important. And we're going to left join. So we're going to join to the left of it, teams, colors, logos, logo, and we're going to do by. So these are the columns that we're joining by. We need this C for a list, right? We're going to go team, and you need this anyway, even if it's just one. Team equals team ABBR. So for point diff com, right, it's called team. And for team colors, logos, it's called team ABBR, but these are going to match up with the other ones. So, apologies, didn't spell it right. That's why copy and paste is so clutch in this scenario. So we get a new pvp point diff com, and we get all these columns. Now let me show you what happens when we run this again, because pvp point diff com is based off of pvp point diff com. So if we run this again, pvp point diff com has this team logo ESPN X, and then also team logo ESPN Y. So it left joins team colors, logos, logo twice, and we get two of the same column, and it labels 1.x and 1.y. See what happens when we do it again. We do it again, we get x, y, and then we get nothing. So we want to avoid that. So if we mess up, right? So say we messed up something here, right? We joined by something we didn't want to. We did a mutate we didn't want to. We would have to run this again and then run this line. And we would get back to team logo ESPN without the X's and Y's. It wouldn't come up as multiple columns. So we are going to take pvp point diff com, and we are going to use the function ggplot on it. So why we don't have an arrow is because we could save the plot as a variable and then run the plot, and the plot will show, or we could just do this without the arrow, right? And just with the pipe operators. And then when we run that line, the plot will show without us having to, run the whole line and then run, say, just whatever we object we put these, whatever we write into these functions. So we're going to do ggplot. We're going to do AES, and this specifies what X and Y is going to be. So in this case, X, we're going to do the team, right? So we're going to use this reorder function. We're going to take the team and reorder it by points 4. So when we do that, it's going to create the bar chart, and it's going to sort in the order of points 4. So you'll see that in a second. And we're going to make Y equal to just points 4, right? So now we have ggplot, and if we run this, nothing really happens because it's just a plot. We didn't actually make it a bar chart. So we are going to do geom bar, which gets our bar chart. AES, more aspects about it. We're going to fill equals team color. So see here how we have team color. We're going to fill the bars using team color. And we are going to make the outline of the bars, aka the color of the bars, team color 2. Right? And then stat equals identity. This is just something important that you have to put, right? It's something important you have to put because we are writing this line, which is scale, color, identity, and then aesthetics equals C, fill, color. So this is how we can take columns and basically turn them into fills and outlines for specific bars. So we can run just this, right? Oh, apologies. I use the pipe operator. So when you start ggplot, the moment you write ggplot and you start all of this, everything has to be separated by this plus. So when you run this, you get this. And I'm not sure if you can see it if I open plot zoom. My apologies if not. But one, the labels aren't labeled, but two, you can kind of see, you can kind of make out the colors of the points for and points against. So, or points for, apologies. So you can kind of see like Carolina here, New England here, and you can kind of see them in the colors of the team. So at the top, like Dallas's colors, Miami's colors. You can click zoom and it opens a plot zoom for you, and you can see it in a lot higher quality. Um, Again, apologies if that's not visible. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to add the team logos on top of these bars. So before we read in the library GG image, here we are going to do geom image AES Y equals points 4 plus 11. So we want them to be like not necessarily on the bars, but just high enough to where it's sort of visible and it kind of looks nice. And then we're going to do, image equals team logo ESPN, right? And then that's this column, the team logo ESPN. And we'll just set an aspect ratio of 16, 9, size, and then we'll make it this big. So when we run this, it'll take a little bit to load in the logos themselves. So just be patient bear with me for a second. But when it does load, we should get the same plot, but with the logos of NFL teams or the corresponding NFL team at the top. So now that it's loaded in, right, we have the Panthers logo, right? We can spot the Packers right over here, right about near 400. Same with the Browns. So we can see all the logos with these teams. I'll actually make this bigger and this bigger just to shrink it again. It's taking time to resize. Apologies again if it's stretched out. So now that we have that, and then we can kind of wait for a second for it to load. Apologies again, I would be using Zoom in this case. And we'll learn how to label the axes later. For now, we're just going to leave it like this. So we're going to separate this. And we are going to now make a plot of points for and points against. So you can actually see this in a lot better than you could before. Okay, so we are going to take PBP, point differential com, what we had before. And these comment hashtags are just to separate kind of the code up here from down here. We're going to run ggplot at AES X equals PF, Y equals PA, right? And then we're actually going to run scale Y reverse. And so what that's going to do is that's going to make the highest in terms of Y in terms of points against, it's going to make the lowest points against because, better teams have a lower points against. And then we're going to run geom point, which this is going to make a little dot plot for us, right? Points for, points against, no indication of team, right? These are all just dots, right? There's really no indication of which team is which unless you go to the data and you kind of match it. Now, I'll show you what happens when we run it without scale Y reverse. You have points for on the x-axis, points against on the y-axis. The highest points against is here, right? So when you're looking at the top right of the graph, which is usually a good thing, you're kind of seeing teams that, score a lot of points and give up a lot of points. I think you'd rather see teams that score a lot and, don't give up a lot of points. So that's why you do scale Y reverse, right? These are good teams that score a lot of points and don't give up a lot of points. Don't score a lot of points and give up a lot of points. Kind of simple there, but just a quick explanation of why we use scale Y reverse. So we are going to take point diff com and we are going to redo this ggplot, right? AES, we can kind of copy it from here, right? Actually. And what we're going to do is we are going to do scale Y reverse once again. And then instead of geom plot, we're going to use geom image. And we're going to do AES image equals team logo ESPN. And then make sure it's out of this parentheses, out of the AES when we put the size, just like we did last time. The aspect ratio of 16:9. So we did it just in a different order than we did up here. Does the same thing. So when we run this, it'll once again, take a little bit to run just as it did before. So we'll wait on it a little bit and I'll actually talk about how to create labels, even though we ran it without labels. So while that's loading in, I'll show you how to, oh, there it is. So it loaded in. It's the same thing as this up here that we saw earlier, but now the teams are finally on the graph. So actually I wanted to add before we included the labels, I wanted to include a theme. So theme black and white, it'll make it a black and white theme. We'll see what that does specifically later, but it's kind of computationally intensive right now to load these plots with the team logos. So I do want to get as much done as possible before running the code again. So we are going to label the x-axis points for. We are going to label the y-axis points against. We are going to title it NFL points for and against. And we are going to include a subtitle that's going to say 2023 season weeks 1 through 18. And then we're always going to include where we get the data from as a credit. Data via NFL read R. So now that we have that, we can run this again. And once it loads, it will change the theme to the black and white theme. There are a few themes that are included kind of in R that you can kind of run like this. You can add your own themes. Maybe that'll be a subject of a specific later tutorial if it ever goes beyond the point that we're at right now. Or there are also a lot of good resources online to, look into that. So we see here NFL points for and against. We use theme black and white, kind of created a box around. We have our labels of the axes, and then we have our title. So what I like to do is I kind of like to move the title. So this is what I was talking about before, but in a smaller sense, how there are many theme options that you can add on top of, like, say, a theme black and white. So you can do plot, something like plot.title element text, right? Because we're changing the element of text. That's the text of the title. And we're going to H adjust it to 0.5. So to be in the center of the screen. Face equals bold. We're going to make it bold. And the size is going to be 20. And we're going to do a similar thing for the subtitle. We're going to do plot. Oh, not inside that same parentheses. My apologies. We're going to do plot dot subtitle equals element text H just, right? It's going to adjust it horizontally, 0.5. And we are going to do one more thing. So you see how there's no real, I mean, you can kind of take a look at it and see an indication of how good teams are, but something that could be interesting is to include lines along the plot that kind of go this way, indicate sort of team tiers in a way, and you can do this any way you want. This is just an arbitrary way that I'm doing this. So we're going to do geom ab line, which is going to create a line, and we're going to do a slope of -1, an intercept, of 0, a color of gray, and an alpha of 0.5. We're going to make it a little bit transparent. So when we run this, we are going to see a line with an intercept of 0. That's on our plot. It's taking a little bit to load. Any second it'll load in now, and we'll see what the line looks like. So it's right there, right? So an intercept of 0, right, would go all the way up and extend to 0, 0, right? If the slope is -1, it's sort of like a y equals -x line. So what we're going to do is we're going to create multiple slanting lines. So we are going to make one at intercept -50. We're going to make one at intercept 50. We're going to make one at intercept -100. We're going to make one at intercept 100. And you'll see what this does in a second. This kind of gives us team tier-esque, a team tier-esque visualization. Pardon. So once we type all this out, right up here, we are going to run the code again. And once it loads, you will be able to see multiple versions of that aforementioned gray line throughout the graph, which will kind of dictate, in a way, team tiers. And it all depends on how, you interpret it. So we included a lot. These are a lot of tiers. You can include fewer, but these kind of give us a guide on how to view this plot. So we have the best teams up here, right? Buffalo over here. We have some teams, some of the middling teams, and then we have some of the teams worst from 2023. So the Jets, Patriots, and then Commanders and Panthers were exceptionally not very good. So what we're going to do is we are going to actually learn how to save this plot. So we're going to use ggSave, and we are going to title it NFL points for, points against .png. We're going to save it with a width of 14, the height of 10, and then we're going to use dpi equals retina. Once we do this, we run this, and it should save. And it does. And we can refresh this, and we see NFL PFPA, and you can always open it on your computer to see if it's saved correctly. So now that we're done learning how to create a plot or plots, multiple, like bar charts, dot plots, we are going to learn how to create a table using GT, which is this package that we loaded up here. So we are going to take pbp point diffcom, and we are going to summarize team word mark. Actually, this is reframe now. It'll give you an error if you use summarize. So same function, this is called reframe now. Points for, points against, right? So now if we do this and run it, we're only doing word mark points for, points against, and we are going to mutate the data frame to create point diff. That's going to be points for minus points against. We are going to arrange the table by negative point diff. So when you run something like this, right, you see all this, and it's arranged by the highest point diff to the lowest point diff. So we're going to turn this into a decent looking table, and it's not going to be the greatest looking of tables, but as you hone your skills with GT, you'll be able to create tables that look a lot better than what we are creating now. So we are going to, apologies, take GT, right? Use the GT function, and we still use the pipe operator in this case. So we're going to do that, and we're going to do GT image rows. And this just defines what row is going to be an image. And this is so important because you're going to run into an error if you don't do so. Okay, so once we have that, we are going to now label the columns. So calls label, right? We're going to team word mark equals team, and it'll output the image under the team. PF equals PF, PA equals PA, and point diff equals PD. Make sure to include commas here, or else you'll run into an error. Next, we're going to align the columns to the center. Calls align. Then we're going to align equals center. You can align them left or right. It depends on preference. We're going to use GT theme ESPN. So we're going to use the built-in ESPN theme. Oh, sorry, we need parentheses here, open, close parentheses. And we are going to tab header, which is just going to be our title in this case. So team point differentials 2023. And we are going to take data color, right? We're going to color the point differential column based on performance. So we are going to take the columns, oh, apologies, point differential. We are going to use the target columns. So this is indirect columns to target, right? For stylistic purposes, point diff. So we're doing point diff on point diff. It's kind of redundant, but you do need both. Colors equals scales. This takes from scales. Call numeric. So our palette is going to be these in particular. So you need this for color, FF9999, which is going to be some sort of light red, and 99CC99. Oh, apologies, 99. Just going to be type of green. We're going to put domain equals null because it's not as important. You do need to acknowledge what your domain is. But our domain is fully through the points for and points or the point differential. Apologies. So now that we have that, we can run it. Can't find column point differential in the data. So if we take point diff and we do that, and we can kind of run through our code. So we know that exists, right? We called it PF diff by accident. So make sure to label this correctly, and you can kind of run through your code like in chunks to, you know, try and find out where your error is. So when we run that, it actually is giving us another error, domain equals null. So I'll actually change the domain to say negative 200 to, what's the max? 205. Here we'll include C, and then we'll do, so for an example, like if you do 0 to 205, it's still telling us that our domain, so let's try getting rid of the domain, right? So domain is missing with no default. Apologies for a second. We're just going to copy what we had before and see if this works. And it does. I might have misspelled domain before. I did. I spelled it domain. Apologies. But if you spelled domain right, you should get a table that looks something like this. And if you click zoom, you can pop it out in the viewer and see it in a lot better detail. Or we can kind of like hit this like this and this like this. And then we can kind of see, okay, team point differential. We start off with the Ravens, right? Because we use the team word mark. This is the team word mark, right? Ravens, points for, points against. They had the highest point differential. You go all the way down to the Washington Commanders, who had the worst point differential. So you can kind of scroll through this, see every single team in the league and their point differentials in a nice looking table. So you're not kind of just staring at your data frame. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to write .csv, what we did last time. And this is what I mentioned at the beginning by accident, pbp point diff. Oh, apologies. Point diff com. And then we are going to call it pbp. I'm just going to copy this actually, pbp point diff com.csv. And when we save that as a CSV, it's currently still saving. Apologies that it is still saving. But once we do save it, we should get pbp point diff com.csv. So it's still saving. But at the end of the day, you will get this CSV file, right? And if, your computer's not lagging much like mine, you will get the CSV file and it'll appear at the top right above NFLPFPA. But I've done it before. Oh, here we go. Just loaded. And boom, pbp.diffcom.csv. And we'll be using that next time. And thank you all for taking the time to watch this R tutorial. I hope you enjoyed. And episode 3 will be out in about a couple of weeks.